Usually when I do this is a hump day, but it's Friday. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the fastest rising pro wrestling talk show and podcast in the world. It's the Pro Wrestling Experience on ChicagolandSportsRadio.com. Usually, we're live every Wednesdays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central, but we're doing it on a Friday. I'm coming off a cold. I want to apologize for not being able to come in on Wednesday. There's so much to get into today. We got a great guest coming on in just a couple of seconds. Just want to get some things out of the way. My name is Josh Lopez. You can follow me at Twitter at WZJoshLopez. I recap weekly editions of SmackDown and Impact Wrestling for WrestleZone.com and all the WWE pay-per-views on the WWE Network. You can follow us on Twitter at PW Show, at Chicago_land. That's where you can find the show today. There's so much stuff to get to. We got NXT Takeover to talk about. Raw ratings. Is it a big deal? Is everybody making it out to be? I'll discuss. We got a couple new segments today, actually. We got a weekly WWE Network threesome, and I'll explain later on throughout the show. Also, spinning off the Chairshot reality show, we have Please Pro Wrestling Fan Base. It's a new segment I'm debuting every top of the second hour, and a lot of good stuff. So we're going to be on for 3 hours. I make it fun, enjoyable. I make a good flow for the show. Lay back, me and you talk pro wrestling like nobody else can. The telephone number is 312-564-7375. Basically, we all know there's a lot of armchair bookers out there, especially in the Windy City. I want to know, if you had the pencil, what would you do different with Monday Night Raw? Do you have all the answers? I'm all ears. So, telephone number is 312-564-7375. Got a lot to get to, but first I want to introduce our first guest of the day, a great guy I met at an event we did for our first live actual radio show in Chicago. I think it was in May. We had the Pod Slam event where basically we were raising money for Connor's Cure, great charity, and the guys from Podswoggle had the event going, and it was a lot of fun. Me and Alex, the original crew, actually did the show. I met our guests there, and Nick Hausman is the host of WrestleZone Daily, which you can find on WrestleZone.com every Monday through Friday at noon Eastern in the East Coast. And Nick joins us on the show. You can follow him at Twitter at WZRebel, and his name's Nick Hausman. Nick, what's going on, buddy?
Oh, not much, man. Starting my day off with you talking pro wrestling before I talk more pro wrestling on my show. We're going head-to-head. It's the Friday Wars.
Well, not for now. I mean, I'm only on Wednesdays, so I got you on a special occasion. But, hey, thank God it's Friday, right?
Yeah, well, hey, man, I live for Fridays. The weekend is a great time to be alive. It's going to be a good time. Taking a little break from the world of pro wrestling journalism for a couple of days. So.
Let's start off with the big news. It was announced at last night's NXT tapings that James Storm made his debut for WWE NXT. What's your thoughts on James Storm heading down to Orlando and being part of NXT?
I think it's just great. It's good for James. It's good for NXT. It's good for the fans. You know, it's nice right now seeing that they've kind of lifted that whatever kind of fan hold blacklisting from TNA talent. They didn't bring TNA talent in for a long time, but now we've got Samoa Joe. We've got James Storm down there. I mean, these are great talents that have years of experience working television in a highly produced environment. These are going to be standout talents. There's a lot of great programs that James Storm can get down there, get into down there with a lot of fresh opponents. I mean, James Storm, Tyler Breeze, that pops out to me immediately. You got the rough-nosed, or the roughneck, the hard-nosed redneck, James Storm against Prince Pretty, Tyler Breeze. I think there could be something there. I mean, Finn Balor, Hideo Itami, and of course Samoa Joe. There's just a lot of great talent down there in NXT right now, and I think that James Storm will be a welcome addition to that roster.
I agree with you, and I think for the main event scene for NXT is kind of thin as far as like main guys for NXT, but I think James Storm's a great addition. You can have Apollo Crews whenever Sami Zayn come back, if he's still going to be part of NXT. I don't know if he's going to come back or the main roster or not, but I like the acquisition. James Storm, I always felt was one of the most underrated professional wrestlers in the world, and glad to see him get this moment there. That episode's on October 21st, right?
I believe it's going to be October 21st. Yes, I think you're right.
So we got James Storm now. Is there any other TNA talents or any outside pro wrestlers that you think will debut in NXT anytime soon?
That I think will debut in NXT anytime soon. That's a good question. I don't know. It's tough to say because, as much gloom and doom as so many folks put out there about the TNA product, I really have to tip my hat to them. This tournament they're doing right now, all these matches were filmed back in July, and everyone was told these were going to be for Explosion. These were going to be for international release, and nobody thought too much of it. And now we come up to this point in time where, you have all the rumors about Destination America, not rumors, fact, Destination America dropping TNA from their television network. Everyone was saying, well, they don't have any TV taped. What are these people going to fill TV with? They're so adrift, and then here they are running first-run content, first-run matches, wonderful 3D design, I think, with the Pope and Josh Matthews. I think this tournament is a good idea. I actually like the tournament. I like that it reminds me of the G1 Climax with kind of an American twist. You've got the intergender nature of it all. You've got women competing in this. So as far as TNA talent I could see in WWE, I mean, of course, AJ Styles is a former TNA talent. I mean, I believe his contract runs up with New Japan Pro Wrestling sometime late December, early January. So we could see him in NXT, I think. But I think that maybe as far as it goes right now. I mean, I don't see a Bobby Roode. I don't see a Rockstar Spud or an EC3 or an Abyss. I don't really see any of the other TNA characters right now in WWE, just because it does seem like TNA is going to be around for the foreseeable future and continuing to do business, and that's going to take a lot of their talent off the table.
It's the little things that you never expect that can work in pro wrestling. It actually works. I love the concept. I was covering the show at midst of everybody watching NXT TakeOver live this past Wednesday. I don't regret it not watching that show live, but I give TNA credit where credit's due. I think they got something working here. Obviously, not a lot of pro wrestling companies besides Lucha Underground do man versus female matches, so that's a possibility with this series. So I'm really interested. So it's gonna be probably a 3 or 4 month tournament, I guess, and the champion will be crowned by January. So I'm interested to see what they're going to do there. We're talking to Nick Hausman, the host of WrestleZone Daily on WrestleZone.com. Speaking of NXT TakeOver respect, I see it a lot of people say this is the best NXT TakeOver ever. There's a common theme I hear that every single TakeOver, it seems like it outdoes itself every single quarter of the year. Do you think that's the case, or do you think this NXT TakeOver respect was not up to the par with Brooklyn?
I think they were very similar. I think they were on the same level. I don't really want to pick one over another. I want to just give credit to NXT right now for continuing to put on just really high-quality shows. I mean, they're giving the people what they want. One of the things that I know everybody was so complimentary about from this past NXT TakeOver is the fact that there was all clean finishes. You didn't really see any kind of shenanigans or anything leading to the finish of any of these matches. All clean finishes, a lot of closure there for everyone. Of course, you got the big celebration at the end with Bayley and Sasha, with Bayley, picking up the big win there in the Iron Man match. And I don't know that I would put one over the other. I thought they were both very, very good, and I just think that NXT's been on a tear. It's amazing, Josh. It's amazing that the same people responsible for NXT bring us Seth Rollins and Kane in the main event picture every Monday night on Raw.
You know what? You bring up that feud. I actually don't have a problem with that because Kane is what we know of Kane, and this is the type of storyline that he would have for this type of pay-per-view. And it's something out of the box. Obviously, I don't think the corporate Kane character has been the greatest thing on earth since he debuted a couple of years ago. Obviously, they wish they would have a better reception to it, but I give Kane a credit for trying something out of the box. And translating back to this NXT show, I enjoyed the show. NXT is a great product. We all know that. We all talk about how it's great. and how it should be implemented on the main shows and all that jazz. My thing is like, I think when it comes to like match of the year, especially this year, not even counting all the other great matches you see from New Japan or Ring of Honor or Lucha Underground, I think we need to like box some new categories for match of the year candidate, because I don't know, maybe it's me, but I don't know how every single NXT match or when it's on a takeover is a match of the year candidate. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just, well, one of the things a lot of people don't know about NXT, and obviously the product there is just much, much different than with WWE. But because NXT is still an extension of the WWE, and not they're not on the road like the WWE main roster is. These talents down in NXT, when they know what their match is going to be for the upcoming Takeover event, they work with their opponent for weeks at a time, sometimes months of a time, to get that one match together. I mean, the main roster guys, it's boom, boom, boom. Every single night you're in a different town. You're maybe with a different opponent. You're always working on the fly. And the matches are very, very good, but that's why the matches a lot of times have a very similar feel to them, because the guys are going through their, the moveset that they know. Down in NXT, since the two, Sasha and Sasha's been on the road, but I guess a better example would be like Tyler Breeze and Apollo Crews, who really put on a stellar performance as well. I'm sure that the two of them have been working that match and putting that match together for weeks, and that is not something that the main roster talents have the luxury of, which is the amount of time to put together a match. And I think that's why you see so many Match of the Year candidates coming out of these NXT TakeOver shows, just because the talents have more time to work on those matches. I think that's why you see the difference there.
One more NXT question before we move on to the main roster, Nick. Do you think they air a Takeover before WrestleMania?
Oh yeah,
no,
absolutely. I think they do one before Mania, and I think they do one before Rumble, I hope.
No, I mean the week of Mania. They had that NXT San Jose show last year, and it was a great house show. I was there, 5,000 people at the convention center. Do you think Triple H has the balls to put a Takeover show right before one of the biggest WrestleManias of all time?
Oh, that's right. That's right. They did do the big event before Mania, but they didn't put it on the network. That's right. It was just a house show. I mean, honestly, at this point, I think it's a layup. They're so beloved, and I think giving those guys, giving that roster that kind of treatment this year, it's an inevitability. I feel like at this point. I mean, they're just so popular. They're doing such great work. They deserve a spot. If you're going to do the Hall of Fame on Friday, do the NXT or you're going to do the Hall of Fame on Saturday, do the NXT TakeOver on Friday. Thursday you can fill with, countdown show or whatever. But that's, 4 days of first-run content that you would be getting at a Mania weekend. And I think that's right up their alley. That sounds like something they've been bundling. That's my new favorite word, bundling. They've been bundling all of these projects and products together, and I think they definitely will bundle NXT in with Mania weekend this year and put it on the network for sure. Absolutely.
Nick, so you have previous experience in the wrestling business. I see you did some stuff with freelance wrestling and other promotions. Tell us about your experience that you've had in the wrestling business, and what keeps you still a fan, even though you're an analyst or a broadcaster, if you will, like I am now these days.
Oh, sure. Sports entertainment analyst. Well, I spent, 4 or 5 years, maybe more, maybe a little, no, probably more, probably much more. I spent many years in the Chicago pro wrestling scene. I kind of, I worked as a manager in, places like Blitz Pro Wrestling and Resistance Pro, and kind of cut my teeth working with a lot of great talent with guys like Ryan Slade and Matty Starr, Jay Bradley, current TNA superstar Aiden O'Shea, current WWC Universal Champion Mr. 450, Japanese women's wrestler Melanie Cruz, the great Rough Crossing, one of my favorites. I worked with a lot of great talents in the area. Of course, all the legends that you get to see on the indies, I've worked with them all. And I got very lucky. I was doing Chicago comedy for a number of years. I wound up getting to work with Colt Cabana a couple of years ago when he had been fired from the E and was looking to do comedy in Chicago. So I worked with him for a number of years and just built up some credibility, made the jump from comedy to pro wrestling. Obviously, I'm not a big enough guy to take bumps, but I can certainly run my mouth. And I like that. I like wrestlers. I like the culture of pro wrestling. I'm a big theater nerd. I look at pro wrestling less like a sport and more like theater. And I just think it's a very interesting medium. It's populist theater for the masses. It is as close to William Shakespeare as you can find in modern culture in America right now. And if that to you say, pro wrestling is like Shakespeare, you fool. Well, you are the fool. Go do some research, because William Shakespeare wrote for the masses, and his shows were filled with blood and guts and violence and power struggles and sex. And it's all the same themes you see in pro wrestling right now. And it's just a fascinating art form. And, since I didn't see myself in the ring much longer just because I took a few bad bumps, my shoulder's a little messed up, and, I wanted to keep giving back to the business and telling jokes about pro wrestling and doing what you call a sports entertainment analyst position seemed right up my alley. And, it's just fun. It keeps me close to what I love. And, I'm very, very blessed to get to work with WrestleZone and host the WrestleZone radio shows and get to do programs like yours, Josh, here, the Pro Wrestling Experience. How can you complain? My whole life is talking about something I'm very passionate about and I find wildly wacky. So,
yeah, and I've seen a lot of your I've seen a couple of YouTube clips of yours as well, and you're very talented, and you do run your mouth, and you said to your ability, and in a positive way. And I enjoy listening to your shows on WrestleZone, and hopefully we can do some more work in the future. Let me ask you a couple more questions before we let you go, Nick. So I heard a report about possibly The Rock and Undertaker doing more work for the WWE towards the end of the year with this recent hoopla over the ratings. Let me ask you this. What would you do differently with Monday Night Raw? The 3 hours are not going away, so we got to throw that out the window. It's USA's decision. They want the money. WWE's not going to be foolish to say, oh, no, we're not going to take the money. But honestly, from your standpoint, is the ratings fiasco that bad right now, or what would you do different with Raw right now?
Oh, it's such an open-ended leading question. I feel like whatever answer I give you is going to get me destroyed in chat rooms across the internet world. I personally don't have a problem with the 3-hour format. I mean, I'm a writer. I'm a theater guy. Give me 3 hours. I'll fill 3 hours with entertaining content. The problem for me isn't the time. The problem for me is just blasé, vanilla booking. It's a lot of the same stuff we've seen before. It's nothing really new. It's nothing original. It's a lot of recycled stories. It's a lot of the same, in and out variations of the same. And what is new, right? That's the question. What is new? Well, yeah. I will say I always liked what I heard about what Paul Heyman wanted to do with TNA when there was the opportunity there for him to come in, and he wanted, I know, a big stake of the company, and they weren't willing to make a deal with Paul. But the way he talked about what he wanted to do with TNA, making it a more UFC, MMA, shoot formatted styled show, I really like that idea. I know you like the Kane and the Seth Rollins stuff. Me, I don't have a problem necessarily with doing that kind of entertainment, that kind of over-the-top stuff, but you got to keep it away from your main event title picture, I think, right now. If you're going to do that stuff, it should be mid-card, undercard stuff, where you're getting that in there to entertain people in different segments. But when you throw your world champion into that, I mean, that is the guy who represents your company. That is the guy where you're saying, this is what everyone else is aspiring to be right now. And I don't see a lot of wrestlers growing up aspiring to be that guy, cowering in fear from a laughably cartoony demon. I see a lot of guys wanting to grow up right now in this generation, wanting to be like Kevin Owens. I see a lot of guys wanting to grow up and be like Cesaro. They want to be real, legitimate, believable badasses. Yeah. Do this violent ballet. And I think that it's a paradigm shift in mentality where you gotta hunker down and say, we are going to treat this with more gravitas. That's why NXT is so popular right now. Because with NXT, there's so many believable guys and girls or women down there, and they're allowed to go out there, and they're allowed to be physical, and they're allowed to be real, and there's no goofy shenanigans, there's no dead people or demons or clowns or, whatever else down there. It's real, believable characters that are putting on genuinely entertaining physical bouts in an entertaining way, and that's why it's clicking, and that's why everyone's on fire. And that's why I say I can't believe that the same people making this wonderfully real product called NXT are also the people that are convinced that what they want to see in the main event picture of Monday Night Raw is this goofy, over-the-top cartoony stuff, because I don't think that's what people want right now. I'm not saying it's necessarily bad. I just think it's not placed correctly on the card, and that they need to hunker down and refocus on what the real direction, creative direction is for the company. Because when you aspire to be in that cartoony comedy slot, that's just not what guys are doing right now. That's not what people want to see in a wrestling movie. They want to see something more real. I
totally say your standpoint. I agree with you. I think a Cade Raw's program is going to go for 3 to 4 months. No, I don't, and that's why I'm not losing my mind over the fact that Cade and Rollins are fighting for the title on a B pay-per-view. I mean, you want to strive to make your shows must-see and have believable characters in the main event scene, but when we talk about fans saying that WWE doesn't work with their continuity or long-term planning, this feud was going to happen whether we liked it or not. This thing's been brewing for 3 or 6 months. And, I mean, if I had to salvage one Cade and Rollins match for an October pay-per-view, that's not even main eventing the show. It's not really that big of a deal to me. I think Rollins will be in the spot that he deserves. I mean, besides John Cena, who's been working harder than Seth Rollins for the past 2 years? The guy, I think he's going to get a major spotlight at WrestleMania this next year like he deserves. And we'll see what happens. So we got Cade and Rollins. I'll ask you one more thing, buddy, before I let you go. I think it's a really fun conversation. I'd love to have you back on the show sometime.
Sure.
So we got Brock Lesnar, Taker, Reigns, and Wyatt in the cell, and, of course, Cade and Rollins. So let me ask you this, Nick. What other matches do you think we'll see at Hell in the Cell?
Oh, let me go to WrestleZone.com. I think they just released them. We're going to see Dudley and New Day. We're going to see Kevin Owens versus the Ryback, and we're going to get the triple threat match between. I think it's going to be a triple threat match. Right now, I think it's just Charlotte and Paige, or maybe it's Charlotte. Yeah, I think it's just Charlotte and Paige right now, maybe, or I don't know. I think we're going to get Charlotte, Paige, Naomi, Nikki, some kind of combo in the women right now. The women's division is losing a lot of steam right now. I don't really know what the heck's going on, but I mean, this is going to be, I think, I want to say it's going to be a blow-away card, but I said that about Night of Champions because I was like, some of these cards sometimes that don't have as much build, they can really surprise you. But Night of Champions didn't really grab me. The Madison Square Garden show didn't really grab me. I'm getting nervous. I'm getting nervous that this show is just going to, again, kind of feel like that vanilla, going by the books, type feel I was talking about earlier, where there's no new ground here. I mean, hopefully we can see the end of the Wyatt Reigns program, but a big part of me thinks that they're going to have Braun Strowman come out, rip the door off this cage, interfere. It's going to be a lot of chaos, and we're going to get 6 more weeks of winter and some more Reigns Wyatt program. I'm just not sure. I am a little hesitant to make any bold predictions about Hell in a Cell right now.
We got a couple more weeks before Hell in the Cell. We got Raw in Chicago this Monday, so it's always going to be a fun, energetic crowd there. I think that helps, especially when you have a build like this towards a pay-per-view like Hell in the Cell. Then we got that big show with Ric Flair, Shawn, and Stone Cold in Dallas next week. I know you're a Texas native from the past, so a lot to look forward to. Follow Nick at Twitter at WZ Rebel. Check out his shows, WrestleZone Daily, every Monday through Friday here in Chicago from 11 a.m., starting at 11 a.m. on WrestleZone.com. Nick, brother, I appreciate you coming on the show today. I had a blast, and hope we can do it again.
Yeah, thank you so much, Josh. I really appreciate it. And keep up the good work on WrestleZone. Always appreciate it.